welcome back to the Whatnots Reactor Core. If you are keeping score, it is number 112. We are here to discuss Yellowjackets Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa,
hello.
How are you?
I need to tell you about my viewing experiences for the first 2 episodes of Yellowjackets.
Go for it.
I brought my new roommate into this show here at Season 2.
Okay.
She plays Shocker. She's a big jock. Like, maybe you'd be into this.
Sure.
So I showed her, like, I found a good half-hour, like, Season 1 recap video. I think it was from Heavy Spoilers.
Okay.
Shout out to Heavy Spoilers for providing us with that service. We made a whole night of it. We got Panda Express. We settled in for a night of twists and turns. And she bought THC gummies.
Great.
So I've been watching Season 2 of Yellowjackets high for the first time in my whole life. That was it.
Amazing. Congratulations, Melissa.
I am reserving these. I take one half of one of these little gummies every Friday night when she and I just get takeout and relax and watch this.
What an experience. Man, I am so excited to be here and talk about Season 2. We did cover all of Season 1 in a previous spoiler cast back when Season 1 came out. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that, you guys can go check it out. But Season 2 is here. It just started. I think the way we're going to be covering this is every 2 episodes. So a total of 5 that we will be making here on the Reactor Core. Melissa, I have to say, episode 2 kept me up all night. I have a energy drink here with me. My mind is racing. I cannot stop thinking about this show. So yeah, I'm super stoked to talk about this.
This show truly grabbed you. Both of us watched it. Both of us thoroughly enjoyed it. But you're on another level. You're full red string about this show, and I watch it.
I'm in.
Which is why I gave you this like warning up front. Like, if I don't remember something, I would high. It was, my whole body felt like it was warm, and you know those like little rubber jiggly balls that you would see in like a crate outside of the toy store, just vibrating around for you to buy them. I felt like one of those.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, yeah, let's jump right in here. Melissa, it's been a year and a few months since Season 1 came out. What did you think of these first 2 initial episodes?
They're giving me a lot of what I wanted. I did thoroughly have fun with the first season. I like the story. I love the performances. And I was frequently wishing that it had a slightly higher production value. And I knew a lot of that was, this was probably filmed during COVID. They probably had limited sets or scenarios they could put some of the actors in. But this season, I think with loosening restrictions and the amount of attention the first season got, it probably has a higher budget. I think it looks better. Like, at no point in Season 1 were there any shots where I thought, wow, what a really gorgeous shot. Like, the landscape of the Canadian wilderness, gorgeous. But
the trees kind of hide it all and cover it in. It feels enclosed, right?
Yeah. This season is giving me the step up in production value and artistic expression that I wanted. So I'm very happy.
Good stuff. Yeah, I liked these first 2 episodes a lot. I think the first one in particular does a good job of kind of checking in with all of both the like 1990s time when they are stuck out in the wilderness and saying what's happening in that, as well as what's happening in modern day times, and just seeing where everyone is at. It felt in a weird, because we got a lot of new info in that first one, but it also feels like we kind of didn't, but in a good way, in a way that was like, let's just kind of repeat some of the end beats that we saw from Season 1, but just tell them slightly differently so that it feels new. It feels like you're catching up, and then we'll sprinkle in a few new things. There are just like reminders of like, we haven't forgot about this plot, we haven't forgot about this mystery, like here's this. And then it was episode 2 that I think really, by that time watching that, I think I just things started spinning in my mind. I caught on to certain things, and then I just decided to go down a rabbit hole last night, and I started looking up Wikipedia pages. What does this mean? What is that? What is this? Tell me the story of this thing. And I am super excited to dive into more of this.
When you told me you were up all night,
extensive notes.
Good. I didn't write anything down. I imagined you like in the middle of the night, your partner Rachel's asleep and she feels you shaking her and you're like, Rachel, do we have any thumbtacks? Rachel, I'm making a conspiracy board. Thumbtacks, where do we put them? Do you have string? Is she in on this, or is this your solo journey?
We are watching it together.
Okay.
She was off at a friend's house yesterday, so I had to watch this one by myself. After we record this, I'm watching it again with her so that I can then catch her up on all of my theories and thoughts and stuff like that. So, yeah, I have extensive notes. I'm not going to hit all of them in this. There's definitely a few things that I do want to pull out, but I still just want to have our regular discussion. What we thought of certain scenes, certain performances, all that good stuff. I think first and foremost, new opening credits is what we got here. And I think this is going to be a big thing for the show, specifically because there was an Easter egg in the credits in season 1 that no one really knew about until the end.
What is it?
It was the guy in the cabin. It was who was credited as Hunter. When Jackie is having her vision the night before she dies, and it like Laura Lee is there. There's that mysterious dude in the back that's like, we've been waiting, and no one knew who the hell that was. He's in the credits as Hunter. And we don't know if that is a name or an occupation. It could be the dead guy that was upstairs, because he seemed to be a hunter, right? Yeah, could be both. Hunter, the hunter. But he, like, that scene, that picture of him is in the opening credits, and no one really knew like what it was or what it meant until the end there. So now we are like scouring the opening credits to see if there's any glimpse of anything that we can get there.
I love the opening credits. I think they are one of the strongest elements of this show, for real. They're sincerely so well done. Absolutely set the mood. And there's some neat new shots in there. There's a very Twin Peaksy shot of adult Misty. Like, looks like she is getting her photo taken in front of a red curtain.
Yep.
There is a shot of all the girls in the snow. Looks like they're shaking their fists and running at something. Like they're in a battle. They have
swords. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like sticks and swords. It did look like there was a scene with one sword. That we do get some new characters in this, which is kind of strange because we didn't really see them in season 1 and in all the shots of all the girls.
It's something
there.
I did want. So Lost, the plane crashed, 48 survivors. You've got your core cast of protagonists you're following, and then just other assorted background people who barely have names or do anything. And then a couple seasons in, they make
Nikki
Scott,
and Paulo.
Steve. Yeah. I think they make a narratively smart move, and they're like, they're all dead, so that we know exactly who everybody on the island is now. We don't just have nameless background extras.
Lost did have the good the amount of extras that they could randomly pull someone in to be like, oh, like they've been here. We just haven't shown you the thing. This feels a lot smaller, a lot more intimate. They are inside a single room cabin. That it's almost kind of silly that we have new characters, but I get the conceit, right?
Yeah, this was something I wanted out of season 1, for them to quantify who the non-protagonist survivors are. And even if it does seem kind of silly that it's coming this late, I'm happy they're doing this now instead of not doing it at all. That there's protagonists and then just like teammate number 3.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mysteries from season 1 was the mystery of this girl in the opening, scene. Who is the one that falls in the pit and dies, and then they proceed to eat her? People are starting to think that it is one of these 3 new characters. Because there is some similarities in like skin tone and body type, and just the fact that they are a new character that we haven't really seen before. They seem more expendable than anything else. But so we have the 3 new characters. There's Crystal, Mari, and Akila, I believe is her name.
Who's Misty's friend. Which means she is doomed.
we don't know exactly.
Yeah.
But Crystal, I think, is the one that is the theater kid. She may have been the one that has a sword. Because I think there's a scene where they have a sword and she's like they're just having fun with like sticks and stuff. But I don't know if it's actual sword or not. She's a theater kid. I wouldn't put it past her to have like a prop sword, or they found one in the cabin, or just out in the woods randomly.
Gotta say,
I don't know.
Being a theater kid and being on the soccer team that's good enough to make championships. Wow, what a feat. You must have been so busy in high school. I don't know how you did both of those things.
Yeah. So there's that. Mari, I think, is the one that people are being like, I think this might be the girl that fell into the pit. And there's an interesting note with that is so in this season, we're also dealing with the aftermath of Jackie's death.
Yes.
We'll get to more of that in a sec, but there's a scene where they take her necklace off and they give it to Shauna. This necklace is being worn by the girl in the pit. So I'm now wondering if this is going to be some kind of symbol of you're the weakest link. You're going to be the one that is hunted. Like if this gets to be the, like, we nominate you as the one that we want you. Who knows? We don't know.
That would make thematically a lot of sense given the role that Jackie plays here in episode 2.
Yes. Yeah. Let's circle back around to that then. Shauna is grieving the death of Jackie, and in a similar way to what we just talked about the Netflix show Arcane on one of our other podcasts, in which there is a character that is grieving the deaths of some of her friends and is like seeing them and speaking to them in a similar way here. She's braiding Jackie's hair, doing Jackie's makeup. What did you think of this stuff?
First off, I thought the makeup was entirely a fantasy sequence. I was shocked when there was a real caboodle there. The makeup truly was applied. That was not metaphorical. Shauna really did that. They surprised me with that one.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to keep the actress playing Jackie still part of the show.
Yeah.
She did a great job. So I spent season 1 thinking they're spending so much time with Jackie. This has to have some sort of long-term significance. And when she freezes to death at the end of season 1, I was telling you, maybe she comes back from this. Maybe she is frozen to a near-death state, but not totally dead. Maybe in the next season she wakes up. I was convinced she was still alive in modern times.
Wild theory that she was a time traveler because of the mistake in her notebook in the modern day time. It was
she says she's seen a movie that hadn't come out yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is just a mistake, or at least a red herring.
I was convinced the Yellowjacket mascot at the high school reunion was going to take off the mascot head and adult Jackie was in there. I was big on Jackie is still alive. And so when you see her completely frozen 2 months later, I'm like, okay, I think she is definitely dead. I don't know if you come back from that.
Right. Yeah.
But then when they decide to build her a funeral pyre and they leave her to burn, and then there's this magical sort of energy that travels throughout the forest and shakes a tree branch so that a whole bunch of snow falls on the pyre and sort of doesn't sort of lowers the temperature of the fire. And then there's that scene where everybody in the cabin
and makes it like a smoker, like a natural smoker.
Yeah. There's the scene where everybody in the cabin is reacting to something, and it's not clear immediately what they are reacting to. When that happened, I was like, maybe this is what wakes her up. We already had Van come back from nearly dying in a fire. Maybe they're going to do it again. Maybe she has remained in a near death, the hibernation state for 2 months and being warmed up. Being warmed up and then have the snow fall on her so that she truly is warmed and not immediately lit aflame. I'm like, maybe that would do it. Maybe she's just standing out there now. Maybe that they think they're staring at a ghost or something. That's what I thought was happening until you realize you don't know what they're reacting to because they're reacting to a smell, a thing you cannot see or hear, a smell. And they go out there and she truly has cooked. She has not burned to death. She has not been cremated. She is cooked. And everybody's like, you smell that?
Oh, they're all hungry.
All the teens go out there, just start gobbling on her. And I love the presentation of this scene with the cuts to them as these Roman regal leaders setting down to feast.
We'll get back to that down the road here.
I loved that. You're gonna obviously spin me some greater theory as to the significance of that, but I love it just as a metaphor there in the moment. It's shot beautifully, edited beautifully. It's such a turning point. It was not what I thought was going to happen with the turn to we eat people now. I thought it was going to be an absolute dire circumstance. Our backs are against the wall. What can we do? We have to make this choice. Instead, nature just cooks Jackie. They smell it, and they're like, we can't deny the smell. Smells too good. Let's all eat Jackie. And Coach Ben didn't hobble out there on his crutch.
I think his name is Scott, right?
His name is Ben Scott. His last name's a first name.
All right. So we're both right. Okay, cool.
Yes, both correct. He's... Because I think Travis goes out there. So it's not just the guys who don't eat. It's just the one adult who doesn't eat Jackie.
He's disgusted.
Yeah.
He goes back in the cabin and is like what
yeah. He can't handle this.
Yeah.
And all the teens eating are sort of in this fervor. None of them, once they start eating, look really conflicted anymore. But he's like, I cannot stand the thought of this.
Yeah,
I think that's
an
a
interesting
really
thing.
Yeah,
down the road.
that's such a fascinating wedge to drive. It's such a neat line to draw that the teens are starving all the time anyway. He's an adult, his metabolism and his body is different. Of course, it makes sense that he's not as hungry as they are to some degree. He's got one less calf and foot he has to feed for himself. He's got less of a body that needs energy. Neat. I love this very much. I don't know what this means for him. I don't know if they will eat him as punishment for not supporting them eating other people.
Exactly. We haven't seen his modern day version yet. We don't know if he survived or not.
No word, which is
Yeah.
still something
And,
from
like, no
season one I think
mention
is so fascinating.
of him, but like,
Exactly.
I wonder what happened to Coach.
We know the people who have gotten out who we have seen in adult form, and we know like people who have clearly died, like Jackie and Laura Lee. Everything else a mystery. We don't know how many people get out. I know Lauren Ambrose, who we loved in Servant, was added to the cast.
That's who I saw her from. I was like, I know her from something. Okay, cool.
Servant. Yeah. Servant, a show that had 4 people in it. The tiniest show. It's not a big
wild
cast.
Show too.
Easy to remember those faces. I'm so happy to see her again. She was added as adult Van, which is the first clue we've gotten that Van survived. You know, I've been under the impression that unless they say somebody has survived, I'll assume they're dead, but theorize about other things.
Yeah.
This is interesting that there has been another survivor who is one of the main cast members who they're just now introducing has survived.
Yeah. And
we haven't seen yet. Don't know what episode adult Van comes into the picture.
They've kind of set themselves up to keep that mystery because all of the survivors are kind of separated and don't really talk about what happened. They've all kind of sworn themselves to secrecy. So that's why it's possible that a lot of them have survived. In this first episode, though, we did get a scene of their Oceanic Six, so to speak, right? We see the girls coming back to Seattle after being rescued, and the way they filmed this is brilliant because except for Lottie and Misty, you don't see anyone's faces. So you don't know, like,
which makes sense that like these girls have been through such a harrowing experience, like they're being led from like a ranger station or something into a helicopter or plane. Like they are all like, they don't want the press on them, so they all are hidden under like hoods and hats and things.
Yeah.
Like it makes diegetic sense for the scene and not just mystery teasing sense for the narrative at large, which I like.
Yeah. So that stuff is neat, but we just mentioned Lottie. I think that was the kind of not big reveal, but one of them from season 1, that Lottie is still out there. And she's up to something. She kidnapped Nat at the end of season 1. And one of the other kind of mysteries that's still lingering is she's the one that emptied Travis's bank accounts after he died.
Yes.
We don't know why yet. That's still a bit of a mystery here.
Well, the timeline she lays out, and I know it's difficult to trust anything she's saying, that she got, like, he communicated some sort of a vision to her that seems to lead her to where she is now. I wonder if maybe she's been starting some sort of a following, some sort of a community for a while. But I get the impression that maybe that complex they're in, that's new. I imagine it was Travis's money that helped pay for that complex, which, that's... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it feels like they've been there at that complex for a while.
Okay.
I mean, she might need help funding it and running it and like all that stuff. So money helps. But yeah, like all we know is that she did that. We don't know if the money went to the camp, if it went to someone else, another one of the survivors, if they're stashing it away for something. We just don't know what yet.
So that complex, is that where they are in the 90s? Are they on that lake? Are they at the site where they... that's what I was thinking. Like the lake, the mountains, it looks similar. It doesn't clearly state where they are. Nat is knocked out. She's not conscious for the travel period, so it's not like she has a sense of how far away she's gotten. I was waiting for that reveal of Nat to realize, you built a complex back on this place? I never wanted to come back here again.
We know that there is a train nearby this complex because that's what Nat would use to get back home. but I think what we know is that they are somewhere in the Canadian wilderness. They're 600
Yeah.
miles north of Seattle, which would put them into Canada. So yeah, Nat did get her like head, head put in a sack so she can't see. She got knocked out. I just feel like it'd be hard to go back and forth across that border so easily. I mean, not that it's impossible, but right, like it would at least just be a small speed bump.
And I also imagine that they're like, oh yeah, you'll take the train home. And then I don't know if we hear it in the distance, but like there's no train or they're not going to let her go home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think it's in this same place, but for all we know, it could be. But yeah, so Lottie is alive, and well, she seems to have started this kind of self-help compound that is very cult-like. She seems to I don't want to say motivational speaker, but she speaks to the followers that she has at this compound in a way like, hey, I can help you overcome your problems. You need to shed off your old self, become your new self, all that stuff. Don't worry about your problems. None of this is real. That is an interesting line right there. She says, none of this is real, which is another kind of one of the theories floating out there of just like, did they really go cannibalistic? Is any of that real? Did they just have a fever dream there? I think it is, but it is just one of those, like, obviously this line stands out to like fuel the fire of like, what is really happening here? But that there is some more interesting things about her and her little cult here. They have this like baptism like ritual that the followers dress up in like animal masks and like woodland garb, and they go dance and scream out in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night. They bury someone alive and then pull them back out, and it is this like death, burial, and resurrection, right? The shedding of the old self into the new life of this new self here.
I'm wondering if that is going to happen to somebody in the 90s, and that's what inspires her to do it as part of her practices now.
Already went through that with her baptism with Laura Lee in season 1.
Like, not a baptism, but like a buried alive scenario.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like we've had stuff like it, like when they they think Van has been killed by the wolves, and they're gonna burn her corpse, and then she wakes up. She's like, no, I am conscious, and they pull her out of the fire. Kind of like what I thought might have happened with Jackie, that she's near death but not dead. I'm wondering if there's somebody who they're going to believe is dead, who they choose not to eat for some reason, who they bury, and then that person is ultimately alive. I'm wondering if we're going to see the inspiration.
A Nikki and Paulo situation.
Right.
Good God. Yeah, so she has some strange things up with that. The last thing I want to say about Lottie, at least for right now, is that she has a message from Travis to Nat that just says, tell Nat she was right.
Yeah.
And we don't know what that means or what she was right about. That's it.
I don't know.
Another mystery with that there. So
one of the mysteries we're still dealing with is, where is Javi? Is he alive or dead?
Yes. So season 2 picks up about 2 months after the end of season 1 in terms of the timeline for them being stuck out in the wilderness. Javi is still missing. Travis is out there searching every day. Nat is with him, but is just like, come on, dude. Like,
it's partially
it's snowing.
They're looking for Javi and looking for food. Yeah. And she will want to go to some place where she thinks she can find an animal. And Travis is like, no, we already searched that place. He's like, I want to go to the next new place to see if Javi's there. And she's like, we have to feed people.
Yeah. they do end up finding a weird mossy tree that they refer to as the weird mossy tree,
Yeah.
in the sense that it like there's a little bit of snow on top of it, but there's not snow on it like everything else. As in, like, there's some kind of heat source or just some weird mystical thing with that.
Yeah.
We don't know the significance of that, but eventually, in episode 2, Nat goes into Javi's suitcase, pulls out a pair of his pants, and kind of fakes that she found him, and to try and get Travis to be like to just stop searching for him and move on. So
I found she like cuts her cuts her arm or her leg. It doesn't matter. Yeah. She puts blood on it, so they find a bloody pant leg, and he thinks she's leading him down the path of Javi's dead. Let him go. Let's stop searching for him and focus on hunting. What she does is go into his suitcase and get just a pair of generic like khaki cargo pants and rip the leg off of those. I'm wondering if there's going to be a point where Travis realizes, wait, Javi disappeared on the night of the doom coming. That night, all of us tried to put on the best clothes we had for this sort of dance event. I'm wondering if at some point he's going to remember that's not what Javi was wearing that night. He was wearing like these nice jeans or something. I think at some point he's going to realize that was fake.
Or Nat was right in the sense that Javi is dead.
And somehow he has come to know that.
Or accept it.
Yeah.
Or on the other flip side of the coin, wouldn't it be wild if he just showed up and just caused chaos?
Another thing I was thinking, the scene where Callie and her friend go to that bar,
I thought
and
the
that
same
guy
thing.
like he introduces himself as J, right?
Yes,
just the letter
I thought
J.
The same thing at first.
I had to pause it and like explain to my roommate, we're both on THC gummies. It was such a struggle. Like how
great.
I thought it made sense. And then I'm like, wait, no, like that guy doesn't look old enough. That timing doesn't match up. But for half a second, I'm like, that's how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Also, like the guy's like, we see him in profile. It's kind of shadowy. I'm like, I don't know if he especially looks like Javi, but he doesn't look absolutely zero like Javi. Like, I don't know. You got to consider every option.
Yeah. I had the exact same thought.
Yes.
And then
I wasn't alone. Okay.
Immediately, it's like, no, he's a cop investigating Shauna, but trying to squeeze info out of the daughter.
Yes.
But also kind of genuinely likes her and is just like, hey, she's actually like nice. Like I like her.
I think Callie's always been in an interesting position. I do like that we're spending more time with her this season and that she has realized my mom murdered somebody. What do I do about it?
Exactly. I feel bad for her storyline because I like it. It's a good storyline.
Yeah.
You're right. She's in some interesting spots. She's also the tell me more about the girls back in there. Like it just happens to be my like least prioritized like plot thing that I'm just like,
this is something I struggled with in season 1, that I wanted the 90s survival situation far more than I wanted anything that was happening in modern day. Like I had so many questions like, do they right now know where they are? Do they have an idea of why the plane crashed? Like, what are they doing to try and, like, has anybody set a big signal fire? Like, what are they working on to like get out? Like, there were so many questions and like things I wanted to see them do. And instead we had to spend time in adult Thaisa's kitchen. Yeah. And I still always want to be back in the woods, but this season I'm a little bit more interested in the modern day storylines than I was in season 1.
Yeah. I agree with that. Let's see. Do I have anything more about Travis or any of them? I don't think so. You mentioned Thaisa. Let's talk about her real fast here. Yeah, she tries to get a new puppy after Biscuit did not last long. Her partner, I forget her name, is not happy. Simone, thank you.
Yeah.
Not happy with her. They have gone off at the request of Ty to
That's true,
like,
yes.
hey, go, stay with your aunt or your mom or whoever. But is like, she had discovered this little altar to the dead dog and the doll with the eyes busted out, and is horrified and is like, hey, you need to step down from this government position that you just won. You need to get help. And the longer and longer that it is taking, she is just getting more and more upset of like, you seriously need help. What is wrong with you? And here in episode 2, we have this series of events, and it got me. I did not see this with like it was immediately when the school called that I knew. But we get this series of events where her kid shows up one day. It's like, I walked here from school. I missed you. I wanted to see you. I saw the new dog. I wanted to play with the dog. Makes sense that something like that would happen. And she does the right thing and is like, all right, let me call your mom so she can come pick you up, and I'll just have to deal with her yelling at me some more about like, what the hell, blah, 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 blah. They go out. The first hint was when Simone shows up, the door is locked and Ty is asleep. Ty has been sleepwalking again in modern day times, and to stop that, she's been chugging coffee, taking all sorts of stuff to keep her awake. And the minute we see her asleep, we're like, oh no, this is good. At that, I was like, I hope that dog is still alive. I got like, God, this is going to be bad. And then they go upstairs when they can't find the kid and the dog. The window is open. They're like, oh no, they escaped. They got out somehow, which I should have known at that. Like, why would the kid escape? Like, I don't think like, we know that Ty could do some scary things while she's sleepwalking. But it just feels strange him having to escape. Like, I know this is also kind of a horror story, and that could be a thing, right? But yeah. And then they're in the car searching, and that's when they get the call from the school. Like, why haven't you come to pick him up yet? And immediately I was just like, oh, fuck, they got me.
Okay.
I thought they really lost the kid. I was like, oh.
The first time he walks in the house, I'm like, this is a dream. That's not real. But then when she calls Simone, and I was expecting Simone to say, what are you talking about? Sammy's right here.
Yeah.
When that didn't come, I'm like, all right, maybe this is legit. We didn't have the context of it's a school. Like, he's still at school. Like, I wasn't able to think that far. I didn't know enough that was the circumstances. But I do like how long they kind of teased that out. Yeah, that it wasn't exactly what you thought. It's not like a one scene sort of hallucination she has. They get a little bit more out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, but before all of that or in the midst of that happening and Ty trying to stay awake, she is frustrated with herself and all the stress that she has. There's a scene of her sitting at her vanity table with a bunch of mirrors. Did you catch her reflection moving on its own? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, just more evidence of either she has some kind of like split personality, dissociative identity disorder, some kind of something like that, or is possessed. I wouldn't put it past that, especially at the end of season 1 when she wins the election. She decides to like stay in the race, and she wins. She gets this very sinister smile on with that. There is the reflection moving on its own, which is very sinister. And then when they find out that Sammy, her kid, is still at school, and Simone immediately starts just being like, what the hell? Like, you seriously need help? Like, XYZ, all that stuff. she gets like her just like she has this change in demeanor and her face just goes real like sinister and stern and just looks at her and stares, like does not look at the road, speeds up, and that's when they have this accident they get into
and then the shot of the shot of the accident, I'd have to look at it again. You don't see the passenger seat that clearly. I'm wondering if, did she also imagine Simone being there? How many things is she imagining at once? Yeah.
Good Lord. Yeah. But she is dealing with it for sure. And then, of course, in the past, she is still sleepwalking. There was a night where, her and Van have started tying their wrists together.
Which I gotta say is interesting because that's a plot point in The Leftovers, the first thing I ever saw Jasmine Savoy Brown in.
Yeah. And there is a night where she gets out of that. She unties herself, which makes sense that she could just untie herself from that knot and then go. And that's what happens. Van wakes up in the middle of the night to chase her down. And we get to see some things from Ty's perspective in her like sleepwalking state, her sleepwalk vision, if you will, because I don't know if she can truly see, but she is seeing, and she's seeing the no-eyed man, and the no-eyed man is leading her to this cliff, and she's sleepwalking and about to just walk off this cliff when Van finally catches up to her and stops her and wakes her up, and they're both just like, what the hell just happened? So that's an interesting thing because we haven't really seen the no-eyed man move in that way. I think we've just kind of seen him standing there.
Yes.
In some stuff. So that's interesting that he's now taking like an active role in leading her, or she is following him in this thing. But we also know that there is this weird, I don't know how to put this, this weird state that some of the characters have gotten in when they've had visions.
Yes.
Van, when she almost died from the wolf and they were about to burn her, says she had a vision. She saw them and there was something with them. We don't know what it was. She just says something. And then, Thaisa sleepwalking and being able to see the ten-eyed man and follow him in her sleepwalking state, right?
Hold on, he had no eyes, now he has 10 eyes?
The ten-eyed man is a Batman villain that has eyes in his fingers.
He's a Pan's Labyrinth. Okay.
Not in the sense that he like holds his eye. He kind of does, but he has eyes in his fingers, so he can like touch you and be like, I see who you really are, and stuff like that.
When was this? When? How old is Tin-Eyed Man?
I want to say late 70s into the 80s. He's still around, but he's one of the like more weird, obscure villains you don't see often. But the no-eyed man, she gets to see him in that. And then to circle back around to Travis in the modern day time, according to Lottie's account, he wants to not kill himself, but hang himself to the point that he's unconscious so that he can get into this state and commune with the darkness that like this thing. So they at least Travis seems to believe that there is an entity out there that is influencing them or manipulating them or possessing them somehow.
Or Lottie believes this and wants to convince Natalie that Travis also believed it.
Right. That is a possibility as well. And especially with Lottie kind of being a little more in tuned with the spiritual, she's had visions. She's had these like kind of psychic powers from a very, very young age that they have tried to treat with schizophrenic medicine. And then when she returned from being rescued with electroshock therapy,
Oh, yeah.
all sorts of stuff. So she's had a rough go of it. For sure. But yeah, they like, and especially in that one scene that you mentioned about it seems to be floating through near the cabin and dumps all the snow. We don't know if that is an entity from its perspective, or it is just the tree got heavy enough with all the snow that branch just kind of naturally happened to fall, and it just happened to be right there on top of her. So weird things are happening for sure.
I wonder if there's something to, does the spirit want to kill Ty, or is it saying like, look over here? And it's just sort of not, like this, whatever this energy force is, whatever this no-eyed man represents, isn't like, well, I don't really think of you as a mortal being who will die if you go over a cliff. That's not how I process things. I'm just saying, look down there. I don't think they look. It's night, so of course there's not much to see. But like,
I think they look over the edge because Vin tackles her, and they're like looking over, and that's when they're just like, "Oh my god!" But I don't think it's a shock, as in like, "Oh my god, we found an entire submarine down there. What's happening?" It's like it's just like I almost walked off this cliff. Shock.
Yeah. Again, you got to think of everything. What if like there's something down there they're meant to be seeing and they don't realize that's the purpose?
That's a great thought. Yeah. Because
I keep waiting for them to
those symbols, that weird symbol that we keep saying.
One of them's out there.
That was on a tree nearby. It was on a tree nearby the crash. It was surrounding the guy in the cabin in like a seance kind of way. That the symbols, Travis used them when he hung himself. Kind of, jury's still out on that of what exactly happened to him. But that symbol keeps appearing in places that I think, yes, we at the very least warrant investigation, but death surrounds it.
Yeah.
It or is nearby, right? So yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on with that there. Last little bit, not as much to chew on with this, but what did you think about Misty and the introduction of Elijah Wood's character here?
I think his physical introduction, like, she reads the comments from him on the Reddit board for the Bureau of Citizen Detectives. It's read in Elijah Wood's voice, which I know very well from years of watching Lord of the Rings and the Lord of the Rings DVD commentaries.
Oh, yeah.
And so then when she's working at the nursing home and she hears his voice as just like somebody bringing a grandparent in, like, oh, I didn't think that's how they were going to meet. That's interesting. And he leaves her the note that's a blank sheet of paper. I'm like, she's got a national treasure, this. It's a challenge. He's testing her.
Oh, that scene was great. Because she kind of immediately recognizes that even with what he's talking about and the way he's talking, something's off. And he's kind of almost immediately like belittling her in the way he's describing some of the nurses. Like, I don't want a nurse that's like this. And it's like, oh yeah, that's Misty. And so she kind of she recognizes that like, hey, like that could be me.
Or like,
what is happening?
He's calling out like threats specifically. He's giving off this definite aura of I am a citizen detective. I investigate things. I am aware of true crime details. And Misty just happens to fit a lot of true crime details.
And she immediately looks up and looks at him, and we knew from like trailers and stuff, like, okay, this is Elijah Wood and his character. I don't know if she immediately recognizes that that's him, but is also slightly attracted to him, and is like, she kind of looks him up and down, and it's just like, oh, okay, let me go back to work so it looks like I'm not staring. And then he gets closer, and yeah, as he walks by, just immediately like smirks and smile, and he's just like, I know it's you, you know it's me, like, and I was like, oh, that is great, it is amazing.
Nice.
Loved that
I'm
scene.
excited for where that could go when they introduce a character who clearly, as far as we can tell, doesn't have anything to do with the 90s
As far as we
storyline
know,
at
yeah.
all. Right.
I don't know if he was a high school student, if he was a year older, if he was a year or two younger. Who knows?
Yeah.
If he's a sibling, and they just don't. Yeah, like
he's like the kid of one of the pilots or flight attendants who died in the crash, who we never think about.
That could be something too. But yeah, he is very much so on. He's hit the nail on the head with Shauna murdering Adam. And Misty is just trying to like, oh well, your theory is stupid. What a dumb theory. Send. It's great.
Like as she types goose chase and then edits it like wild goose chase.
Send. Bitch.
Speaking of Shauna murdering Adam, I like the scene where her and Jeff go to they go to Adam's art studio and he's done all these paintings of Shauna, and Shauna kind of gets out of trouble by convincing Jeff that he likes to be cocked, and then they just have sex right there on the table in front of the nude paintings of Shauna. What a turn. And then the scene where they go home and he just
Papa Roach just like
right, just like has some new metal time to himself alone in the car. That's a great moment. I love it.
Because I mean it is a weird scene for him where he is trying to he's nowhere near as like adventurous or edgy. Like he really does not have a dark side to him. He did this blackmail thing, but less of a like I'm a badass, more of a I'm an idiot. Like
we watched that like summary video of season 1, then we start the season 2 premiere, we meet Jeff, and then I had to pause it and turn to my roommate like, I realize this isn't clear from the video we watched. Jeff is actually pretty great. Like you like
he's
Jeff. There's something to Jeff. Sincerely,
he's just kind of this oblivious,
right?
Like even if he is clued in on certain things, he's still just not connecting any of the dots here. But I think him seeing that fucked up painting of her. That was not one that they messed up themselves, but was one that was like Shauna and her skull and like showing it was this weird like abstract thing. I think he's starting to see that Shauna has a darker side to her.
Yes.
That he didn't necessarily like. Maybe he knew, but also didn't know exactly how deep it went. And I think he is maybe starting to realize that. But yes, that stuff was interesting. Back to Misty, and what was Elijah Wood's character's name? It's something with a W.
Wendell Winston. Are you thinking about the show he was on with the man in the dog costume?
Wilfred,
what was that one called? Wilfred. I don't know his name.
I don't know.
But his username is putting the sick in forensics.
Great. Amazing stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes down the road, because that feels like it'll be a great rivalry between him and Misty. Good stuff there. That's kind of all I have to say, except for my wild theories.
I've got one shot I want to shout out. It's in episode 2. Episode 2 had a lot, like the sweeping shots of the mountains when Natalie and Travis go out searching. Like it's got really nice cinematography in it, which is like, there's nothing wrong with season 1. Season 1 looks good, but at no point did any visual style like really stick out to me that much. And I'm happy season 2 has got a little more pizzazz to it. There's a shot when, I think it's when Kevin, that's his name, right, comes to see Shauna at her house.
Yep.
And there's a shot through this like opening, you know, this sort of look through from one room to another that's like got this frame around it, and it's a shot of a painting on the wall, and then like the look through from one room to another, that cutout, and that's like framed and perfectly has like Shauna and Callie in there. It's such an interesting shot. It makes them look like they're just on a flat screen TV on the wall. Like it's sort of really like literally and metaphorically like frames the situation they're in as television, as this whole like separate narrative on its own. Oh, just a neat shot. Just really appreciated it.
Good stuff. Yeah. I do think they stepped up some of the production value. I think the snow in the old timeline.
Oh yeah,
super fake. I will say you can see just like white like pixels and stuff in their hair. Doesn't look great, but I think their outfits and makeup, the way the characters look in that are fantastic. It does look a lot more like they shot in the cold, because that is what at the very least that's what the makeup looks like. They look like they are cold. Their noses are red, their lips are chapped, and like it's believable. And I thought that was a good step up.
Speaking of makeup, real briefly, there's the scene where Lottie, I think adult Lottie, sees the vision of like Laura Lee's ghost coming towards her out of the shadows. And my roommate's very squeamish. And I'm like, Mary, you gotta look away. This is gonna be gnarly, because I'm expecting to see burnt Laura Lee dying in like the plane explosion. She's not burnt. She's just sort of generally ghostly. It looks cool, but I'm like, oh, that's actually much easier than what I thought we were going to see. This is easier on the eyes. That's just normal ghost.
Yeah. So, are you ready for some Easter eggs and wild theories?
Yes.
So, episode 1 is entitled Friends, Romans, Countrymen. I thought this was a brilliant Easter egg.
Yes.
At the end of, so in episode 1, Shauna accidentally knocks Jackie over, which breaks her ear off.
Yeah.
She tries to kind of put it back on, but doesn't know what to do with it. So she puts it in her pocket, keeps it. And at the end, we get that just great, real quick shot of her just right about to bite down on it. Well, of course, Friends, Romans, Countrymen is a line from Shakespeare. The rest of that line goes, "Lend me your ears."
Yes.
Which is great. Brilliant.
Excellent.
Loved it.
I love that episode 2 is called
fantastic.
Edible Complex.
Yes. Which brings me to kind of the bigger Easter egg that I have here. There's a lot of Greek mythological references in these first 2 episodes in a way that season 1 did not have it, but also recontextualizes a couple things, specifically Doom coming. I'll get to that in a sec here, but yes, episode 2 is entitled Edible Complex, a play on in Oedipus Complex, where you fall in love with your mom, but they eat Jackie in this one, so it is an edible complex.
Right.
I know episode 3 is entitled Digestive, like a
digestif.
Yes. Thank you. Like a drink that you would serve after a meal. So that is going to be an interesting one for sure. But yeah, a lot of Greek mythology references in this stuff. Man, so you brought up that you really liked this scene when they are finally eating Jackie, and it's intercut with these scenes of them in these like ancient Greek garbs and crowns made out of like leaves and olive branches, and it is just this Dionysian feast that they are just gorging themselves on. And it starts real simple. You know, they eat a strawberry, they pick up their cups and they cheer. And then it just very quickly devolves into them just gorging themselves on all of this stuff. And yeah, this is interesting because the Dionysian feast, Dionysus is the Greek god of wine, fertility, festivity, insanity, and ritual madness. And so there's some interesting things with that, but I think this also ties into the doom coming here, especially the play The Bacchae, I think is how you pronounce it, or the Bacchae. But it is essentially the plot of that play is the king of Thebes outlaws the worship of Dionysus, who then sends his female followers, known as the Maenads, which translates to the raving ones.
Yeah. I think I read this in college.
To rip apart the king of Thebes, which is very similar to what is happening in Doom Coming, that they are like ripping him up, they are ripping Travis apart, they're about to eat him and like cut him apart, which is wild. But the Maenads themselves like are often dressed in like woodland garb. They have animal skins on. They have staves that are intertwined with like ivy and leaves and pine cones, which is exactly how they were looking like in Doom Coming. So it is just this really interesting touch of like, here's a reference to the Bacchae, all of that good stuff. But in keeping with the Greek mythology, let's talk a little bit about Lottie and her cult here. So Lottie is depicted in this like bright orange color, right? And her followers are in this purple.
When she says it's not purple, it's
purple. Heliotrope.
When she says it's right. When she says it's not purple, it's heliotrope. My roommate turns to me like, I didn't know that was a color. I thought that was an animal. I thought a heliotrope lived underwater.
It's a flower, which is what they are using to make the purple dye. Heliotropic flowers are flowers that always look at the sun. So during the course of the day, they will slowly turn to face the sun. Of course, heliotropic finds its roots in Greek, in the sun god Helios. So her in this bright orange makes her look like the sun, which all of her followers being these flowers that are looking at her and following her, which is an interesting thing. But then also to note that in season 1, when we saw Nat when she was in her rehab still at like the very start when we first meet her, she is wearing purple. And the guy that is running the discussion is in that same color orange, which is an interesting thing to see. But if we follow this logic that Helios, the Greek sun god, has connections to Lottie, Helios is this all-seeing god, is what they saw him as, because he's the personification of the sun. Here we have Lottie being this like spiritual guru, kind of having this third sight, these visions, right? Which is what they attributed to Helios. Helios was also given the epithets of Hyperion, meaning the one above. And I think with her kind of spiritual stance, like that could potentially put her on like, hey, I am the spiritual leader here. I am the one above you guys here in that sense. I am leading you. He also had the epithet of Pathon, I believe is how that's pronounced, which means the shining, or the shining one. Of course, in Javi's like weird panic attack visions, he's seeing her with this like glowing aura around her. She is shining, which is interesting. The Helios, his main like myth that is like most famous, is of his son, who is also named Phaethon, and it's about his son asking Helios to ride his chariot across the sky, in which Zeus then strikes it down with lightning, very similar to how Laura Lee took the plane and it blew up. Just some really, really interesting stuff with that. Again, on the heliotropic flowers, there's a Greek myth as told by Ovid in his Metamorphoses about a water nymph named Clytie, I think is how you say that, who falls in love with Helios, is betrayed by him, and then turns into those flowers that all there. So there's a lot of interesting stuff around that. Some interesting discussion about both Laura Lee and Lottie hitting their heads. In season 1, we see Laura Lee jump into the pool and she hits her forehead, right? And that's when she is pulled out and saved. The first thing she sees, obviously, being that the lifeguard's cross necklace, right? So that's why she turns to Christianity. But Lottie, when she gets possessed in season 1 in the seance, if you would like to think that it's a possession, ends the whole thing by banging her head on the window multiple times. And of course, your forehead, especially like right here, and being a spiritual power, is like your third eye. That third eye, obviously, being like the all-seeing eye. There's a bunch of symbolism with that. I mentioned the all-seeing eye. There's the eye of Providence, which is an eye inside a triangle, which you might know from the back of the dollar
National treasure.
Could be, that stuff could be connections to the Illuminati, the Freemasons, all that. There's a lot of great iconography with this symbol, which is a triangle, and then there's a circle, kind of like an eyeball. Now, it's not exactly in the middle of the thing. It's more on the top, which makes it look more like a person, but we don't know if it's actually a person. There is a hook on the bottom. They did hang that one girl upside down to gut her and do all that stuff. And there's the little stick arm things sticking off the side of the triangle. So it seems to have like a personified thing, but there is this idea of a triangle with an eyeball in the middle, which is also used in Christian arts and stuff to represent the Holy Trinity, which Laura Lee had that, and Lottie now has the. It's a little bit too far out there. I don't think these are theories that like solve the mystery of what happened.
No,
but I like them thematically. I think these are really, really neat to explore and just be like, oh, look how this fits. This is so cool. Look at that reference.
And it makes sense, again, diegetically. You can imagine the girls studying Greek mythology or Greek literature in school, and like they are aware. Like Lottie herself is thinking about Helios or something. Like, you can imagine they have actual knowledge of this. They are dorks about it. And they do let that feed into this this ritual society that they are creating now. I mean, Misty named her bird Caligula.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've yet to dig into the real Caligula or like I don't know if he was
Roman
a real
emperor.
guy or a
He
fictional character. He probably ate people. I don't know
Well,
everything he ever did. Eating people might have been one of them.
I haven't looked into this much. I literally, between us recording the review show before this and this, I watched a video of the season 2 cast reacting to like wild fan theories. Yes. One of them was, did Misty name her bird Caligula because the Roman emperor of the same name was said to have performed a cesarean and eaten a baby?
Oh!
And she says no, because it actually recently came out that was a disinformation campaign about a following, like one of the next emperors to get you to not like him as much. They put out all of this information, and it finally came out that stuff was actually not true. And so she likes to think that she named the bird Caligula because she is a character that is often assumed to have been one thing, but is not really that one thing, or you think is more harmful than she actually is, or vilified when she's actually not. So,
and I think I remember reading that somebody did come out and say, they're not going to eat the baby. We're not going to tell you what happens, but the baby will not be eaten. Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, they did mention that.
Cesarean sections named after Caesar. Caesar himself. Was Caesar the one who said, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears"? I know. I took a Shakespeare class. Let me look this up. I took a Shakespeare class in college. Don't remember everything in great detail.
You also have a very minor potential Greek reference with ceramic being the answer to the crossword, all the ceramic vases. Stuff like that.
That was said by Mark Antony in the play Julius Caesar.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, just lots of interesting Greek references. I don't know if this will continue. I tried to look up at like the episode titles, but I don't think they've released them all. I know they also released episode 4, the title for that one, but I don't remember what it was. And it was entitled Old Wounds. So not immediately being like, oh, that's a line from that one play or anything like that. But who knows?
Just a phrase. Hopefully we'll get adult Van by that point. The most like visibly wounded of any of the survivors. I know I've seen promo shots of Lauren Ambrose with all the scar makeup on her face. So hope we get her by then.
Hopefully. But yes, that's kind of all I have on these first 2. Down the road, I don't know if we'll go as long as we did for this episode, which was like an hour and some change. They might be a little bit shorter, but this it hangs off an answer. Brings up a lot of questions that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, I think doing this once every 2 episodes of the show is going to give us pun not intended but acknowledged, some real meat on the bone for whatever it is we're discussing. Yeah, a lot to chew on, all sorts of metaphors. Like I think 2 episodes is a really good size for like the pace of the show and how many storylines it has. It might take 2 episodes to really substantiate something we want to dig into.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that I think about wraps us up for our discussion review spoiler cast of season 2, episode 1 and 2 of Yellowjackets. In the meantime, or I guess I should say, in 2 weeks we'll be back with our next installment of Yellowjackets. In the meantime, we also have a John Wick 4 spoiler cast for you all to check out. We have The Mandalorian season 3, episodes 1 through 4, like a review spoiler discussion on that. So be on the lookout for that as well. But yeah, that's about it. So Melissa, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, show where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kid shows you feel like only you remember, if you want a very different form of some 90s nostalgia.
There you go. If you guys would like to follow me, I am at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at The Whatnots, we are, of course, at The Whatnots on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please go check out one of our other videos right here on this side of the screen, right over there. That would help us out a bunch as well. This has been number 112 of the Whatnots Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.